This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
We got the bullpen coming up here in the outlook, and Edwin Diaz will be 100%, I hope, healthy here coming in after last year coming into the season with that knee injury. You got the recent signings of A.J. Minter, the return of Ryan Stanek, Reed Garrett, Daniel Nunez. We mentioned Jose Budo. And the final spot, obviously you talk about Canning, Blackburn being that long guy as well. But you also have Tyler McGill in the fold, Sean Reed Foley, Danny Young could be another lefty. And these guys are also on the 40-man roster, Justin Hageman, Kevin Hergert, and Austin Warren, which I assume will get at least an invite to spring training here. We all know the way David Stearns operates when it comes to acquiring starting pitching. And when it comes to the bullpen, it's a whole lot different as well. I really feel like this is one of the stronger areas of this team. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do, because what we saw last year, what the Mets were really good at was some depth, right? You have those guys, those 6-7 guys, but you're going to need 20. I mean, that's not being facetious. You need 20 guys coming out of the bullpen, guys that we haven't even heard of yet stepping up. You just showed that comment of a fan that we didn't expect much out of Minaya and Severino last year. The Mets didn't even know who Daniel Nunez was last year, right? The guy was pitching in humongous games for the Mets at so many different points. But, you're right. And again, from year to year, how do the Mets get just a little bit better than they were last year in a spot? And so last year, who's your lefty out of the pen? Jake Diekman. Okay, guy's been around the block, walks a lot of guys. Can he keep that down? No, he didn't work out for the Mets, even though when he struck out Aaron Judge, I think all of our jaws dropped in that game against the Yankees. But this year, the lefty is A.J. Minter. I mean, that's a massive improvement. A guy that's been in the division, knows what it takes to pitch in high-leverage games for a full season, not just in the playoffs. So I think that's really big. You bring Ryan Stanek back, who struggled when he first came over, but toward the end of the year, right, in the playoffs, get Stanek in the game. Right? He was really, really hot, and so now he's back. And just the guy at the top of the list, though, is going to be everything. I mean, Edwin Diaz – last year was his first year back, right? We forget that. And, it didn't go well at times. The confidence was shaken. Some of the great moments that we had last year as fans and us on the radio was watching Edwin come back to save a game that 20 minutes ago he just blew the lead, right? We want to see Edwin get outs 1, 2, and 3 in that order, no problem. It doesn't have to be what he did in 22 when he struck out half of the planet, but maybe something a little bit closer to that than 2024. If Diaz is elite, right, that takes the pressure off everybody else. So, it's a good, deep bullpen. There will be guys that pitch this year that will go, who is this guy? And he'll get out of a big jam and we'll go, we love this guy, right? That's what Stearns did last year, and I think that's what they're going to do this year. And so I think that, again, you just try to get a little bit better at every roster spot year over year and hope and pray that Edwin Diaz, who's making, $20 million, pitches like the elite closer that he has been.
Stanley Babbage in the chat also agreeing that he thinks that the bullpen is the strong point. I think when the season ends, when the 2025 season's over, we will look back on the return of Ryan Stanek and the signing of A.J. Minter and see how important they really are. Both serve multiple purposes. They can set up for Diaz, they can close in a pinch, and have very good postseason experience.
100%. And again, you need those guys, right? You need a safety net for Diaz, who, again, pitching on a back-to-back, or, I mean, imagine this, right? The Mets are playing the Dodgers again in the playoffs, and in the ninth inning, you're going to see Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, lefty, righty, lefty. You're going to need an elite lefty to face those guys. Is that A.J. Minter? That's what you hope when you sign a guy like that. I mean, that's obviously down the road, but, I mean, you have to look at that moving forward, and you'd rather have Minter there than maybe other lefties. And so it's a great signing. Crazy things can happen to relief pitchers. Some start on the opening day roster, and some get hurt, and some get, put on waivers. So you never know how it finishes, but you'd like to keep those guys, those guys together, and you hope Stanek can blow guys' doors off with 100. And Minter is just a tough lefty to face because he's been in those situations for so many years.
And even early in the season, a great point by Stan from Westport, we will see Stanek, Diaz, and Minter pitch in earlier innings this year at times. We saw Edwin Diaz in the postseason come in the 6th inning against Philadelphia. So I'm sure we will definitely see that. When it comes to Edwin Diaz and the up and down season he had last year, searching for the velocity, protecting the injured leg, that he came back from the World Baseball Classic. You had the suspension for the sticky stuff. Now that all of that is behind him, under his belt, recovering from the knee surgery, I think we are ready to see somewhat of that, that 2022 Diaz back, that Timmy Trumpets Diaz. I don't expect it 100% of a repeat of that, but something close to it at least.
Yeah, I wonder at what point in 24 Diaz felt like he had his legs underneath him, right? It takes a while to get back to just being you. And a Mets reliever last year told me, when Diaz was struggling in the beginning of the season, that he forgot how to fail. And just for a year on the shelf, watching, you forget what it physically feels like to give up a game in front of your fan base. And so you have to relearn how to do those things. And so it takes weeks and months to get that experience back. By the end of the year, you wanted to see maybe a little bit more improvement from Edwin. The sticky stuff thing to me was just a sign that he was feeling the pressure, right? Like he wasn't totally feeling comfortable with himself. Maybe he needed a little bit of help from an outside source. Turned out to be an illegal outside source. That to me meant that Edwin was trying to play catch up a little bit. And now he's got an NLCS appearance under his belt, full off season. You've got the same manager, the same pitching coach, right? It's not Buck Showalter to a new manager. Who are these people? I've been out for a year. I've been here. I know who's here. We're more comfortable. We're a unit. We're kind of bringing back a lot of the same guys. And I hope Edwin Diaz is just more confident in his stuff internally than he was from needing some help on the way in.